Hello and welcome to another instalment of the State of Scottish Football. I am Amy Canavan. You won't see me on this show an awful lot, but I thought I'd better make an appearance sooner rather than later. And today I'm joined by our regular David Smith. David, how are you getting on?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Amy. Disappointment that Dr. Grant Campbell and Stuart Garvey aren't here tonight, but obviously I'm the one to make up for their absences, and very, very grateful to be on with yourself.
Oh, lucky you, lucky you. No, indeed, it is lucky me. I'll just be the filler girl tonight. So let's get started. David, it's a tough one to talk about right there. We've got to kick off with the post-mortem of last night's defeat to Denmark. 2-0, Scotland were on the end of it. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was a disappointing evening for Scotland as a whole, because I mean, there wasn't really much excitement about the game as a whole, considering the self-isolation and the COVID situation that happened with Scotland. But when you look at opponent in the face of everything, you're always positive when you're Scotland. There's obviously critics as well, but there's obviously your positives as well. And there was actually a bit of positivity heading into last night's game with Denmark. But I mean, I feel Denmark were undermined to an extent, just in the sense of they reached the semi-finals, and a lot of people thought, right, it's good reaching the semi-finals, but for Scotland, we've got a chance here. And we conceded 2 early goals, and it was damage limitation from that point. Fair play to Scotland, because they were more resolute defensively after that. But apart from that, it was a disappointing evening for Steve Clarke's side. And he needs a big response now. I think against Moldova on Saturday, it's the perfect opportunity to go and bounce back. I mean, he's only had one win in 9, and I've seen a lot of things on social media, Amy, with regards to Steve Clarke and call for his head. And I don't think it's right. I feel it's far too premature. I can maybe question the contract extension side of things with regards to the timing and the length, and Austin McPhee could be a bit of a questionable appointment all the same. Austin McPhee, don't get me wrong, is a really good coach, and he's not an Aston Villa for no unknown reason. But I mean, Steve Clarke has only had one win in 9. This is a massive game for him on Saturday. I don't think Scotland are under pressure by any stretch of imagination, but Saturday is a big game for Steve Clarke in terms of lifting the nation again, but also getting a win to try and kickstart and lift confidence among the Scotland camp again.
Touch upon that contract extension there, and there was quite a lot of talk at the time as to what was it the right time and was it the right decision. I think one of his biggest faults recently has been his team selection, David. There's been so many occasions recently, and I spoke about it last night. I was on the pre-match, the halftime, and the post-match, so my thoughts have been pretty much out there. But what do you think? I keep going back to that Israel game. It took until half-time, and he realised how defensive we were, and we never went out to attack it against them. And you're losing 45 minutes there, and it was the same last night. He obviously realised that the team selection was wrong, brought on Dykes instead, shifted Brian Fraser back and took off McKenna. But can we really afford to constantly be putting out the wrong 11? Because that is ultimately what he's doing.
No, and I'll be honest by saying that Clarke is one of those guys that he'll implement a philosophy, but that philosophy can sometimes not be the correct process or the correct approach. And sometimes what you get with the Scotland side under Clarke is you get a lot of positivity heading into the games with regards to lineups. You look at lineups and go, "Oh, I like him in that position. I like him in that position." But I'll be honest, Amy, by saying that when we all looked at the Scotland team last night when they played Denmark, you were looking at that. There were people on Twitter saying, why are we playing that system? Why are we playing that player? Why are we playing that team? If I'm being honest, Ryan Fraser got played in the wrong position. He was far too lazy for my liking last night. I mean, he's a player that's playing at Newcastle. Ryan Fraser, I'll be honest with you, is not the player that he was at Bournemouth, especially under the early days of the Eddie Howe reign. I mean, Aberdeen, I'm an Aberdeen loon, so I can obviously speak on an Aberdeen point with regards to Ryan Fraser, in the sense that when he started at Aberdeen, he was fantastic in fantastic form. And that earned him his move to the Premier League. And after that, it was a case of he started off well with Eddie Howe. He kind of dwindled down a bit. There was contract issues which forced him out of Bournemouth and then into Newcastle. He's not really hit the ground running with Steve Bruce's side either. And defensively, we look a little bit odd. I don't think, and somebody's touched upon it here, I don't think we could play Billy Gilmore and Callum McGregor in the same team, if I'm being honest with you. Billy Gilmore offers something different. so does Conor McGregor. But if I'm being honest with regards to the philosophy and the way Scotland want to implement their own way of playing the game, I don't think the both of them suit it. John Suter is decent. I do feel he could be doing more, but I think it shows a lot from a Hearts perspective when he's turning down offers to go and join the English Championship. But yeah, there's lots of improvements. And I'd like to see Steve Clarke changing up one or two things for the weekend, because, I mean, it's Moldova and we can't undermine Moldova. We've seen plenty of times with Bertie vote sides where we've dropped points against sides we should be winning and everything like that. But I'd like to see Steve Clarke trying one or two different things. I mean, Lewis Ferguson came on, did okay. But I'd like to see the likes of Xander Clark or Liam Kelly get a chance in the goals, because, I mean, you've had a 38-year-old Craig Gordon in goals, and don't get me wrong, a custodian, an experienced guy, and that sticks. But he is a guy as well that is in the end of his career to an extent. We need a Xander Clark or a Liam Kelly that's at a good age. And we also need players, in my honest opinion, that need that international experience. And I think Moldova at the weekend is the perfect opportunity to go and do that for Steve Clarke's side.
The reason I've kept up William's comment here, which is one that you dabbled into just there, why can't we play Gilmore and McGregor? You know, I'll be honest, I thought McGregor was played in the wrong position last night. I felt he was instructed far too much to be hanging out on the left. That's not where I like to see him. I've seen him many times there for Celtic. It's not where he's most influential. I said it last night. I like to see him in that almost quarterback role, that deep number 6, and just being able to dictate play. If you're wanting somebody out on the wing, out on the left, you know, I'd be looking at Ryan Christie instead. But why can't we have Gilmore and McGregor in the same team?
It's an interesting way to look at it, I suppose. I mean, they both offer so much creativity, and if you do play Gilmore and McGregor, you have to have them in the same position as far as I'm concerned. You can't just have Gilmore in the middle and McGregor at one side. You have to have midfielders in the same position. You can't just go playing players in different positions, because one, they'll get too confused with the system, because when you're on international duty, it takes time and time to go and work on it, and you've only got 3 or 4 training sessions to go and work on these things before you're going into a game. Whilst if you're playing at club level, you're at Monday to Friday, so you've got the opportunity to go and spend a good 3-4 hours on it, or even more. So there's that. For Scotland, it needs to be about simplicity as far as I'm concerned, just in the sense of we need to have a structure and a philosophy where it's basic. And if we can get the basic but balance it into having a winning team and a winning mentality, it's going to be successful for Scotland moving forward.
It's constantly spoken about, you know, the talented pool of players that Steve Clarke really does have at his disposal. The likes of Andy Robertson, Kieran Tierney, and that's just to name a few. Of course, it's just typical Scotland, to be honest, that both of our best players are in the same position. But why, when it comes to the national side, are we so disjointed? You know, there is attacking players from our clubs there. We've got Liverpool players, Celtic players, Leeds players, and Liam Cooper. And the reason I bring in Liam Cooper is because of that defence last night. Steve Clarke's trying to be quite resolute. He's prided himself for so long that we are a defensive nation. We cannot defend. You know, last night, the second goal is outstanding. There's no denying that. It's really well worked. But it's eased and made so much easier by Scotland's inabilities to just clear that ball. And mentioning Liam Cooper is because he was the one to first step out. It's a little bit unlucky with the touch, but nothing is clearing it too well. Why, when it comes to that national side, all our creative players, they almost seize up. You know, Andy Robertson was out on the wrong side last night. That's evident. It was obviously trying to get some sort of balance on either wing. It didn't work. But what's going wrong? Why are we so disjointed and have been so disjointed for so long?
It's an interesting question, if we're being honest. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think we noticed it in the Euros as well, to an extent, just in terms of how we were disjointed and how not that there wasn't a togetherness, beg your pardon, because there wasn't togetherness, but it looked as although, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think we can play a 3 at the back. I think we need to play a 4 at the back. The 4 at the back could be a bit questionable because you didn't have Stephen O'Donnell and you didn't have any other right backs. We didn't have any real right backs last night when you look at it, so you can maybe understand that side of it. But as far as I'm concerned, we need to be playing a 4 at the back, and that 4 at the back would be a right back. It would be Cooper. It would be Tierney, if it works, of course, and Robertson on the left hand side. The Robertson and Fraser as wing backs doesn't work. Simple. It's a tried and tested approach. Don't get me wrong, but it just hasn't worked. But then I've also been disappointed as well with how we haven't really done anything moving forward. I mean, if I'm being honest, Lyndon Dykes did very well when he came on last night for Scotland. But apart from Lyndon Dykes, I don't think we've got enough bodies or enough quality to be scoring goals, but also scoring enough goals to go and win games of football.
You mentioned it earlier, you're an Aberdonian yourself, so I just want to pose one last question on the team selection really to you. Do you feel Scott McKenna is of international ability?
Initially, yeah. As time's gone on, he's been getting found out a little bit. And I'll be honest with you, fan hat on, beg your pardon, by saying he found out a lot about Aberdeen before he moved on to North. Just in the sense that if Aberdeen were playing any decent team, such as the Old Firm or Hibs or Hearts before they get relegated, he was getting found out against like say Edwards and Yaron Morelos. I mean, it tells you a lot when McKenna and Morelos were involved in that retaliation process at Bitodre not so long ago, and Morelos had played a blinder one Wednesday night at Bitodre, which forced McKenna into sending off. It forced Morelos into sending off as well. But the reason why McKenna retaliated in the way he did is because he was getting frustrated and he was getting found out. In my honest opinion, Amy, I don't think he copes well when it's a quality forward he's up against. And the Championship does have some decent forwards, but the international level's a completely different level from club Championship level, as far as I'm concerned. And you're finding it out both with Aberdeen, towards the end of McKenna's tenure at Aberdeen, and also with Nottingham Forest and also Scotland, that he gets found out against players that have that little bit of quality about them.
You know, you mentioned that in Moldova has to be a shoo-in. It has to be. There's simply nothing other than a Scotland victory. There's no two ways about it. So just to even take that one step forward, not that Steve Clarke should be taking an eye off Saturday, because I say a shoo-in, but nothing's a shoo-in when it comes to Scotland. Austria is simply a must-win. Now, I know many of us went into last night, there was that little bit of optimism, but as you mentioned, Denmark are European Championship semi-finalists. They are an extremely experienced and compact side, and they outperformed us last night. You know, they are a class above Scotland, but we have to look to Austria now. This is a side that took Italy into extra time in the last 16 of the Euros as well. So the fact that we need to go, it's a must-win. How big is this for Scotland?
A lot's been made of the fact that Scotland are in an easy group. I'm a bit disagreeing with that, to be honest with you. Austria's a quality side, and as you've alluded to there, they did take extra time, and Austria have got some quality players such as Sabitzer just joined Bayern. Abada, left back. Yeah, right. They've also got striker, but I've forgotten his name. So they've got quality in abundance in that Austria team, and it's going to be a hard game for Scotland. If Scotland can go and get a result on Wednesday, brilliant. If that's a draw or a win, of course, brilliant. But Moldova has to be a priority. I mean, for Saturday, and it has to be a professional performance. Get the professional performance in. It's job done as far as I'm concerned. We've been aligned in the past with Scotland sides, not just Steve Clarke's sides, but also. Sorry to remind everybody about this, but I think we've got to mention it. Kazakhstan a couple of years ago, which is a total shambles under McLeish, and it kind of signalled the end of McLeish's tenure. And during the second spell, we must make sure that never happens again, especially under Clarke's tenure. I mean, if we fail to win on Saturday, I don't think it's the end for Clarke, but he'll be under intense pressure if we don't win at the weekend, as far as I'm concerned. But I mean, Saturday needs to take care of itself, and as I alluded to earlier on, I think we need to look at ways to move the team around, but also bring in fresh blood such as Zander Clark's and give the likes of Lewis Ferguson's and other players more time. If we could do that, it'll one result in hopefully Scotland win, but two, you'll be looking at this on Sunday morning and going, we've gave players game time, and we've given players international experience that they might not have got otherwise.
It was the lacking opportunities last night, you know, that really stuck out, especially, you know, in that first half. I don't think Shea Adams really touched the ball. Ryan Fraser was being forced into making runs that he was never going to be competing with the likes of Christensen and Carr at the back. So in that attacking sense, and those attacking options, who would you like to see lead the line in those surrounding areas on Saturday?
With the Dykes for me. I mean, I'm a big fan of Lyndon Dykes. I mean, he's not really a poacher of a player, but he's really good in terms of leading the line really well. While Shea Adams is more that poacher type of player. He reminds me a little bit like Griffiths in a funny way for some bizarre reason. But Lyndon Dykes is one of those players for me that he'll do the dirty work for you, and that's very undermined within a striker's role. Just for any team, of course, it's the way you conduct yourself with regards to leading the line and your hard work before and off the ball can't be undermined, and that's the big thing for Lyndon Dykes for me. Yeah, he can score goals, but he's also good with regards to doing the hard work. I mean, when he played for Livingston, that's why he was so successful, because he was really good with regards to doing the hard work, but he also had a goal or two in him as well.
I just want to bring up Daniel Matt's comment here, and thank you to everyone that is commenting. You know, we're going live on so many various platforms right now. I think it's Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. I'm definitely going to miss one. YouTube, Periscope. This one. There's LinkedIn as well. There's absolutely everything out there. So Facebook, yeah, there'll be that as well. So thank you to everyone that's commenting. So Daniel Matt makes a really interesting one there. David, a draw is a win to Clark. Now, I bring that up because, you know, we look at the last, I think it's in the last 11 games, you know, there's only been wins against the Faroe Islands and Luxembourg as well. So any other manager, that's not a record that they would be able to, you know, survive and live through. You look at the likes of Strachan and McLeish over the last few years. There's been some people even alluding and taking us back to Levine days. I don't think we're quite there yet. But do you think that Steve Clark maybe gets a little bit leeway more than anybody else, perhaps?
I think he does. But from Clark's point of view, if the mentality is that a draw is a win, or sounds like that, there's that conclusion. The question's the mentality upon the Scotland team. I mean, there's enough characters in there. I mean, you've got Andy Robertson, won the Champions League with Liverpool. You've got Tierney, probably the best player in Arsenal's books at this precise minute in time. You've got Stuart Armstrong playing a very good Southampton team. You've got Lyndon Dykes leading the line very well, Queen's Park Rangers in the Championship. You've got Craig Gordon, been there, done it, wore a T-shirt. So there's plenty of characters in that Scotland dressing room going, look, this isn't good enough. This needs to be better. You've also got, for recovering Austin McPhee at this precise minute in time, you've also got Stephen Naismith. Stephen Naismith played for Everton. A very good Everton side, I may add. And that was been there, done that, wore a T-shirt. And yeah, it just tells you everything you need to know. Ryan Christie is on the move to Bournemouth. I know you don't like speaking about it, David, so apologies on that front, but that's a Bournemouth sign in the Championship. As far as I'm concerned, he should be going higher. But from a Ryan Christie point of view, he's in England. He's in the second tier of English football. And Championship's a terrific standard. And there's, like I say, there's enough characters and there should be enough mentality in that Scotland camp to be looking at it and going, we should be doing better here. You look at Wales. I'll compare Scotland and Wales here. Wales have got an okay team. They've got Gareth Bale, one-man team, arguably. But you also look at it and go, at the players concerned, Robert Page's disposal, and go and say, who does such and such play for? Who's such and such play for? The level of Scotland, in terms of who they play for, is far outweighs the level of Wales players or Northern Ireland players. Yet, with regards to Scotland teams, we still come up unstuck. I mean, there was a lot of positivity when Steve Clark took the Scotland job, and understandably so, because he did very well with Kilmarnock. And when you looked at it, he's worked under some top managers such as Jose Mourinho and Brendan Rodgers, and there was a lot of positivity here in his tenure. But it's looking like being the same sentiments and same symptoms again. And yeah, I mean, the Scotland job, I don't think is a poison chalice, but it can lead into a poison chalice if it doesn't go right. And for Steve Clark's point of view, he has to make sure this doesn't turn a poison chalice now.
This is a great point coming in from Monkey as well. And just as you're referring to Wales, I look really similarly, you know, to the Republic of Ireland last night, who were kind of unjust and probably deserved that. They deserved something definitely out of last night. So you look at the Republic of Ireland, they have no big star in their side. You know, everything that you're sort of alluding to with Wales, really, they at least even have Gareth Bale, but there's not that standout in that Republic of Ireland side. And there they are going toe to toe with Portugal, with, you know, Ronaldo there as well. Obviously, he came up on trumps always at the end, but there's never even that chink of, like, you know, when was the last time that you even thought, wow, Scotland could maybe pull off a shock here. There's never going to be a shock in store. And if we're seeing that as fans, the opposition know that themselves.
The last time we thought there was going to be a potential shock was that Serbia game in November when Scotland won the up through Ryan Christie, and then Serbia nearly broke us through that roof when they equalised with 4 minutes to go in that game. And penalties was, you were right through the roof until the one, of course. But yeah, with regards to Wales, and Monkey has raised a really good point there, because Wales do not go out negatively in the park, absolutely not. But Wales, to Robert Page's credit, and Chris Coleman beforehand, they had a philosophy, they had a structure, they had a mentality about themselves. With Scotland, and it's not just on the park, I mean off the park as well, there's this wholesale vibe within Scotland that whenever things go wrong, it's push the panic button. It's back to square one again. And we need to stop having that mentality of having a vibe where if things go wrong, the whole country goes at a meltdown. I mean, we play Moldova on Saturday, and as far as I'm concerned, if we don't win more than 2 or 3-0, Scotland will look at this, or Scotland fans, beg your pardon, will look at this and go, it's not good enough. We're back to the McLeish mentality. We're back to the Gordon Strachan mentality, and it just won't be good enough for some Scotland fans.
And we're talking about leaders, and we're talking about stalwarts on the park and real inspirational characters. And we're going to take a wee minute away from the men's side and take a moment just to talk about and really reflect on arguably one of the best ever Scotland players, and that's in Kim Little. She announced her retirement just a few days ago, when it's kind of been shadowed over by transfer deadline day and obviously by the fixture last night. But 140 caps and 59 goals for the national side, that is some return from the Arsenal captain, isn't it, David?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the BBC ran a thing a couple of years ago. I noticed Jane Lewis tweeting this yesterday that she was in the top 5 or top 10 players to ever play for Scotland. And that just speaks volumes of the quality of player that Kim Little was. I mean, she came all the way from Mintlaw in Aberdeenshire, and then she joined Hibs Ladies, I think it was, and then made the move to Arsenal. And she's been there and done that, and been to America and everything. But from a Scotland point of view, she's been class, and she earned Scotland her first place in the Euros and also the World Cup for the Scotland women's team, and that just speaks volumes to the legacy she's left towards Scotland, because I mean it has been a legacy, and she's been a quality player throughout. And it was a sad day for women's football, but not only women's football. Amy, it was a sad day for football in general in Scotland when Kim Little hung up her boots on an international basis yesterday. But I mean, that's Leanne Crichton, and that's Kim Little now. And it's a generation almost gone now. Leanne lost as well. That's 3 players I mentioned here. That Gemma Fair, beg your pardon. That 4 players that have been there and done it, and they're no longer on the playing side. Obviously, you've got Leanne Ross that is on the coaching staff of Scotland. Well, not now, but she was on the coaching staff of Scotland before the new guy came in. I'm not going to pronounce his name because but she's also on the coaching staff of Glasgow City. And yeah, of course, it just shows the experience that these players have picked up when these players are going into coaching roles. I'd like to see Kim Little on the coaching role moving forward now, because I mean she's had enough experience in the game. I feel she would have the capabilities. And she's professional enough, and she comes across really well in her interviews and whenever she speaks about the game to go into potential management or indeed coaching.
Spot on, that golden generation under Anna Seagull and Shelley Kerr. It's really all starting to fall apart now, and Kim Little was such an integral part in that 2017 qualification side to the Euros, and then she got that terrible injury, and obviously she never even got to participate in it, but she got her opportunity at the World Cup, and scored that first goal on that afternoon that I'm sure all of us can remember against Argentina, 3-up, and everything just sort of fell apart. But we talk about trailblazers, and you talk about legends, and really a real figure of a certain generation. Now, Kim Little made our debut in 2007, so that meant I was 6 years old actually when she made that. And she's been a spearhead and been right at the heart of everything, and she was there when it wasn't really pretty to be a female footballer, but she's been there through the whole evolution really of Scottish women's football, and it's on the new brink now. There's a new generation coming through, like you say. There's new management and a new World Cup campaign just about to be kicking off as well, so it's really it is really a sign of old times coming to an end, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you speak about trailblazers there, Amy. I mean, we had Rose Riley that was a trailblazer. I feel Kim Little should be a trailblazer because, I mean, women's football was nothing back in 2007. When you look at women's football, it was maybe the odd appearance on the telly, such as Arsenal. I mean, there's a lot of Arsenal fans just because they were so successful at that time and you were seeing them all on national television. Now women's football's obviously grown in the last 14 years since then. But I mean, Kim Little was a part of that Arsenal team back in the day. That was kind of a legacy within itself, just in the sense of when she moved on from that national team, you start to see a growth in the women's game. Glasgow City obviously doing well in the Champions League for themselves. Obviously, Kim Little wasn't a part of that, but with regards to overall, I feel the likes of Kim Littles and your Leanne Rosses and other players have probably helped with regards to growing the women's game in this country in particular, just in the sense of we're seeing a lot bigger standard, a lot more publicity. I mean, BBC Alba showing games again as a Sunday in SWPR1. We've also got the BBC Sports Scotland package as well. I mean, Glasgow City are playing Motherwell on that on the telly. Leanne Crichton, very quick to undermine the importance towards her on Sunday. But on to Kim Little still. She in my honest opinion, needs a statue around Hampden Park. might look at this and go, statue? Really? But when you look at it in the whole complexity, Kim Little left a legacy. She started a legacy, rather. And for Kim Little, she needs to end with something memorial. And as far as I'm concerned, a statue outside Hampden Park, especially after the agreement with the Scottish women's team at Hampden Park, would just tick all the boxes as far as I'm concerned.
It's a fantastic sentiment, and I don't think many could disagree with that too much. But we'll move on from the post-mortem of Scotland because it's depressing enough to talk about that. And to be honest, this is one of the real uplifting stories in Scottish football today. And I think it's a real step that a lot of clubs could take a look at, certainly my own club included. Dave, I'm not sure how you feel about this, but if anyone's not read the St Johnstone statement today, now the chairman, Steve Brown, came out and addressed the fans. Everybody will be aware on Tuesday night, obviously, in quick succession. St Johnstone lost two of their prize assets, and double winning cup captain Jason Kerr and the man of the moment, the man on everyone's lips, the name on everyone's lips, and young Ali McCann. It was a disappointment. I think we all originally, St Johnstone fans or not, we were like, God, they both went on the cheap. You know, Jason Kerr, I think around roughly about £600,000, and Ali McCann to a fee rising to I think about 1.75 million. Of course, we all know that's going to be a lot of money to a club like St Johnstone. Of course it is. I think we all had a general feeling that, you know, when will Scottish teams really start to realise the value of their own assets? But the statements came out today and addressed as to the whole situation in a really transparent and honest sort of communication, really, between the fans. And communication is key. And as I said, it's something that certainly my clubs lacked in recent times. Dave, what's your sort of take on it? And what did you take your reaction to it? You know, like I say, it's the club treating fans like adults, not like robots, not like kids. Chairman Brown himself is a fan. And he was just talking on quite a personal level that we don't see a lot from these top clubs, do we?
See, before that statement came out, Amy, I'm going to be brutally honest with you by saying I was going to be ranting and raving this evening for both Ali McKenna and for Jason Kerr because I felt it was very, very good day. But no, I was very impressed with that statement this morning. I mean, it just shows you that the club at St Johnstone are, because they're a really welcoming club, they're a family club, and they are a club that have the fans in high regard. And St Johnstone need to be put in high regard as well, because I mean it took a lot of courage for St Johnstone to put out a statement in the way it was conducted, and I mean it just says a lot, because I mean St Johnstone could have went with a sense of keeping Ali McCann at the club, but as they touched upon in that statement, it would be very easy for them to keep Ali McCann, but either had a very unhappy player at that club, and a lot of media and a lot of pundits and a lot of fans would have looked at this in January and went, Ali McCann had a successful tenure at St Johnstone, but he didn't exactly end his tenure at St Johnstone very well. Poor performances, lacklustre performances, Johnstone have done this to a letter, and they've done it to a letter superbly. Ali McCann will move on to Preston. He'll go to St Johnstone's best wishes. And with regards to Ali McCann, he's going to Preston North End side that are battling for promotion in the Championship, and also alongside that, there's a possibility of playing Premiership football. You compare that to Ryan Christie, and I know we're speaking about St Johnstone here, but Ryan Christie's went to a Bournemouth side. If they do go to the Premiership, they're going to be a relegation threatened again. Whilst Ali McCann has looked at Preston as the potential, either as a longevity towards staying at Preston for a long time, or he's using Preston as an opportunity, as a stepping stone to go into the Premier League. Because Ali McCann, you've got to remember, is only 21 years old. He had 2 years left in his contract at St Johnstone. And Ali McCann is at a perfect age as far as I'm concerned, because Ali McCann is a bit like Kenny McLean. Kenny McLean at Norwich used his first year or two as an opportunity to go and rejuvenate himself again. And then once he was able to rejuvenate himself, because remember he was injured as well, after that, he was a player that could easily play for another team in England. John McGinn's the exact same. He's went to Aston Villa captain now. Obviously, I know it's speaking of which, Jack Grealish moving on to Man City, but being the captain of Aston Villa Football Club is a tremendous achievement for John McGinn. But back on Ali McCann, he's a terrific player for both club and country. And with regards to Ali, he'll be using Preston as an opportunity to either be at Preston for a long time, or he'll use Preston as a stepping stone to go into the Premier League, provided he does very well at Deepdale. And he's got all the potential. I mean, St Johnstone fans, I cover a lot of St Johnstone, so we notice it on a regular basis. Just his tenacity to get in the ball, he's a very intelligent player. We noticed that against Galatasaray. He was box to box, he was everywhere. He covered every blade of grass that night. He was absolutely fantastic. And that night kind of put him in a shop window to an extent. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, Amy. I went to my bed that night thinking nothing would happen. Woke up the next morning, Ali McCann's gone. It was a sad day, but it was a proud day for St Johnstone, and a proud day for Ali McCann and his family also, and for Jason Kerr. He was off to Charlton originally for £500,000, and then Wigan came in with an extra 100,000, and that was it. Off to Wigan Athletic. I mean, if I was St Johnstone, I could have held it for a little bit more, but after reading their statement this morning, it's perfectly understandable. St Johnstone are entitled to get what they thought was right, and it was kind of touched upon it with Sean on Tuesday that I thought it was the wrong valuation, but upon reflection, it maybe was the right valuation. I mean, you're speaking about a centre half that's only 24 years old, and he was out of contract soon, so I maybe kind of overstepped the mark where I spoke to Sean on Tuesday, if I'm being brutally honest, but with regards to Wigan, they were a club in administration a few years ago. They're now battling to get back into the Championship, or if not, back into the Premiership. And Jason Kerr had a massive part with regards to what Wigan do moving forward. Jason Kerr's experience with St Johnstone will make him in good stead at Wigan, because Wigan are a club that are past their transition stage now, and they will go from strength to strength. And Jason Kerr's a massive part of that. And Jason Kerr's experience in the game will go a long way to take where Wigan will go in the long term.
You know, there's no real shock. Of course, clubs were after Jason Kerr, and I'd like to hope at least some even at least made an offer, or at least an inkling to sign Ali McCann as well. But it just shows you, though, that even, you know, you just mentioned that they're Wigan, a side not so long ago facing administration, battling administration, arguably and easily are going to be offering bigger wage slips, to the likes of Jason Kerr. I'm not so sure, obviously, about Ali McCann. That's going to be a pretty clear one, that he's going to be getting a much nice pay package at a Championship side. But we're focusing on Jason Kerr here. It's just that it's a little bit worrying yet again that, you know, there's still those lucrative moves even down to League One for real stars in the Scottish Premiership, isn't it?
Well, I touched upon it in my social media personally, Amy. I felt Ryan Christie went to a level down. I felt he's a Premier League player. I mean, I touched upon it in our group chat. Leicester and Crystal Palace were in for Ryan Christie not long ago. Also, when you look at Jason Kerr and the guy, Liam Robinson from Dundee United that joined Lincoln City, I felt that both of them could easily be in the Championship. And as far as Scottish football is concerned as a whole, Amy, I feel we undervalue ourselves. Just in the aspect of if these players won the Premiership and Championship respectively, we'd be looking at this and going, great moves for these players. These are potential stepping stones to go into bigger things. And yeah, when you look at it, it is kind of frustrating because I mean we are very quick to question the integrity with regards to why Scottish football isn't marketed very well. And when you see these moves coming around, it's very, very frustrating to say the least.
You were obviously on the show the other night as we were going for our transfer deadline day, and as expected, of course, a few deals came in once we came off air. So we'll quickly just run through them with you. What do you make of Cammy McPherson joining St Johnstone? Obviously, he's going to be that quick replacement. He's almost that sticky plaster fix to try and fill the void left of Ali McCann. It's a bit of an odd one, though, leaving St Mirren to head to rival St Johnstone, because St Johnstone ultimately they've not kicked off the best of this Premiership season. No doubt they've had eyes on Europe, rightly so. Now with the loss of both Jason Kerr and Ali McCann, it's going to be a tough season for Callum Davison. So to grab one from a rival, 60 odd appearances Cameron McPherson has for St Mirren, what sort of impact do you think he can have in Perth?
I'll look at this at three ways. I'll look at St Mirren first and foremost and say I'll be a little bit frustrated if I was a St Mirren fan just loaning him out to St Johnstone. I know there's obviously the panic, but St Mirren probably weren't under any pressure to go loan him out to St Johnstone. If the guy wanted to go out to St Johnstone, because I know he gave an interview to the St Johnstone website, and he kind of hinted that he did want to go out to St Johnstone, and when St Johnstone put in the approach, he was keen to go, which questions whether he was well thought of at St Mirren, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. As for St Johnstone, a good move for the club, just in the sense of they took in Cammy McPherson at a time when they had to settle the nerves to an extent with Ali McCann and Jason Kerr. And I mean, take the Kerr and McCann story out of the equation. St Johnstone have recruited really well. I mean, because of how St Johnstone have been really busy in deadline day, we're forgetting about Ali Crawford. Ali Crawford's a terrific signing for St Johnstone. On loan from Bolton, he's shown at Hamilton how capable a player he can be in the Scottish Premiership. He's a terrific player for St Johnstone. They also signed the Docker on loan from Brighton, who's a terrific defender. And St Johnstone have recruited really well. But back on Cammy McPherson, it's a good move for the player as well. St Johnstone won't hit the hits of last season. Why? I'll tell you in two ways. One, they first and foremost won't win the double. I'm happy to be proved wrong. There'll be plenty of memes come May if I'm proved wrong and St Johnstone go win the double. And two, with regards to St Johnstone, they're not the side of last season, and finally they don't have a striker that's going to go and score 20, 25, 30 goals. Glenn Motherwood's been an exciting proposition for St Johnstone, but he's no 20, 25 goal season for me. Neither Stevie May or Chris Kane. So for Cammy McPherson's point of view, a great move. And it will be a St Johnstone side looking to retain high standards. They'll be looking for European football again, understandably so. But they'll also be looking at this and going, we can't hit the heights of last season. And you're already seeing it in the games so far this season. The drop points against Ross County, the needed penalty to beat Arbroath. And it is really worrying. And Ian McIntosh is indeed at the top.
There we go. Let's bring this comment up just so everybody understands. There we go. You touched upon it earlier. Jamie Robson from Dundee United has headed down to Lincoln City as well, and Scott McMahon from Hamilton quickly got snapped up. Hamilton were actually in action as he was announced at Tannadice. Another good move for Tam Courts.
Definitely, and I mean, Tam Courts, I've kind of alluded to this in the show a few times now, Amy. Tam Courts got some unjustifiable criticism, but I can understand where the criticism is coming from at the same time, because he's a young coach. He's came through the academy. He's obviously in charge of Celtic Hearts when they were in the juniors and coming into the Lowland League. But that was the Celtic side. They were at the start of their journey, start of the financial journey, but also financial journey towards success as well. But Tom Courts is a really successful summer with if you take the absence of Lawrence Shankland out of the equation, because Lawrence Shankland will undoubtedly be a big miss to Dundee United. But apart from that, he's recruited really well. I mean, Jamie Robson was outstanding against Rangers recently. Man of the match performance, and it kind of put Jamie Robson in the shop window, so to speak, just in the sense of if he didn't have the game he had, he'd have still been at Tannadice. And folk are quick to remember, he's been at Tannadice for 6 years. He's seen everything. He's seen Mixu Patalainen in the door and then go again. Shabawazo, he's seen Mickey Mellon, Robbie Nielsen. He's worked under so many managers.
You're spot on there. Let's go to the one that I'm not really that optimistic about talking about or happy to be talking about. They were coming. It was just a matter of when, not if. And it was the exits of both Odsonne Edouard, left it late, and Ryan Christie to Bournemouth. Edouard, obviously, to Palace, and Christie to Bournemouth. Edouard didn't get that big money move that he was really after. Of course, he has landed in the EPL. It is where he wanted to go. But it's Crystal Palace. And Ryan Christie, it's just disappointment all round for the national side, for himself, from a Celtic point of view as well, isn't it?
From an Edward point of view, and I'm going to start by saying about Crystal Palace, and Sean and Stu raised a good point in the show the other night, just with regards to Odsonne Edouard's perfect for Crystal Palace at this precise moment in time, because they're not a Roy Hodgson team, they're a Patrick Vieira team that are a difference in philosophy, a difference in mentality, and you're going to see a completely different Crystal Palace team this season. So it's a good move for both player and for club. Disappointment from the Celtic front, but I mean the financial return isn't too bad. It could have been better, but you've got to acknowledge that Odsonne Edouard was undoubtedly wanting out at Celtic Park. So it's a good move for all parties concerned. Ryan Christie, Bournemouth. I alluded to it recently. Western Crystal Palace were in for Ryan Christie's services recently, back in the summer, and it just tells you everything you need to know when that Ryan Christie, first and foremost, doesn't want to be at Celtic if a club of Bournemouth stature were to come in for him. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got a lot of time for Scott Parker. I think he's a really good manager. He's done really well with Fulham, and unfortunately they did get relegated, but Scott Parker comes across really well when he speaks to the media, and that's the thing. And it's been, as much as Celtic have had a really good start to the season, it must be a questionable one as well with the players that have departed, because you've had Edouard leave it to Palace, you've had Christie leave it to go to Bournemouth, and you've had Christopher Ayer leave it to go to Brentford. Ayer leave it to go to Brentford is a worrying picture as well, because Brentford have just came up to the Premier League, and it would have been a questionable one, just in the sense of how are Brentford going to do. Brentford, to their credit, have started off very well, but it was a very questionable move at the time. So as much as it's been a good recruitment process from Celtic, it's also been a worrying picture in a sense as well.
Of course, Ryan Christie has come out and announced that he has always had an affection for Bournemouth for so many years, so it was obviously an offer that he couldn't refuse. You mentioned Ayer as well. You know, it took right up until the death. I think I was in the office at the time. I think it's 11:57 it came through that Cameron Carter-Vickers has came up to Celtic for a season-long loan. That little bit of defensive stability that's undoubtedly been needed. I think somebody else came up into the comments. I wouldn't have been too disheartened if Celtic had pumped some money to try and go for Jason Kerr. I think he'd have been a fantastic addition, if I'm honest. But instead, it's Cameron Carter-Vickers. How much have you managed to catch him over his time? You know, he's been at Spurs. He's had a loan move out to Bournemouth himself. He's got European experience, Premier League experience. He's been about the block a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good move for Celtic. I'm going to be brutally honest by saying I don't know much about the player, but it's a good move for Celtic. And they do need to tidy up at the back or shut up shop at the back, just because you've seen it on Sunday yourself, the Old Firm game, and I hate to bring this up because I know you're a Celtic fan, Amy, but just in the sense of the goal that the Rangers scored, I felt in various different angles Celtic could have done a lot better with the goal. The ball in first and foremost, the ability to defend at the back, but also Joe Hart in the goal. Joe Hart has to do better for me. But also, as much as Celtic have started very well, we've noticed over the last 7 days there's still a lot to come from Celtic defensively. Alkmaar was a timely reminder of that. Celtic are a different complexion, both home and away. Home, you'll find a philosophy where they're settled. They've got a more balanced philosophy about them. Teams are afraid. Celtic Park is slow but surely becoming a fortress again. Away from home, you're finding it Ange Postecoglou is playing a completely different system, and a system that I don't think they should be playing. And from a Celtic point of view, international breaks came at the right time, just in the aspect of trying to get this sorted out as soon as possible prior to returning back to competitive action on an away front.
It's I don't know how much you've managed to look into this one, David, but I've took some interest in it, and it's the Georgios Giakoumakis signing. You know, a lot's been touted on the face of it that he had a fantastic return last season. You know, he's top goal scorer in the Eredivisie, but then when you look a little bit beyond the surface and look a little bit deeper, you know, 9 of those goals last season were penalties. Seasons before that, the return has not been anything up to that sort of standard. It might not be the perfect signing. Perhaps maybe some Celtic fans have had the wool pull over their eyes a little bit on it here.
No, absolutely. One thing I did find out when I did my homework on this player was he's got a good aerial presence about him, and that's all fine and well, but you need the feet as well to score the goals, because it's not all about the head, it's about the foot as well. And from my perspective, it's a good move from Celtic, but as you've alluded to, it's not even the perfect move, or it's not the best signing that Celtic will ever make under Raj Postecoglou's tenure. The best signing for Celtic for me will be Full Mashi, but from for VVV Venlo, their side's struggling and he does score goals, but there's the other side to this where you're playing for a side that's looking to, or will be entitled to go and challenge for success, and if they don't be successful this season, lots of questions will be raised, and every player in a Celtic shirt needs to play their part this season, as far as I'm concerned, and that's the case for any player, including the recent acquisitions that Celtic have brought in.
I want to have a look at club very, very local to myself, and that's Hibs. Hibs had a bit of a disappointing window, didn't they? You know, there was a lot of late drama that there was. I think there was quite a lot of belief at Easter Road that Jamie McGrath would be walking through the door. Now, we spoke about St Mirren earlier, losing Cameron McPherson. One of the best bits of business they will do is actually keeping hold of Jamie McGrath. You know, I think he's an exceptional player. Made his full starting debut last night for Republic of Ireland against Portugal. It's been a disappointing window from Hibs. You know, they brought in young Tate and loaned him right back out, of course, to Rafe Rovers, and then they brought in David Mitchell as well. But with the injury to Christian Doidge, I understand they've obviously kept a hold of Kevin Nisbet. It's not quite been the window that we'd maybe been expecting from Jack Ross's side.
Seeing the Dylan Tate front, I've watched Rafe Rovers quite a few times last season, Amy. I don't know the ins and outs, obviously, but I'm surprised they won them out, if I'm being perfectly honest. I feel he would have enough credentials on himself to be ready to push into that Hibs first team. You look at Daniel Mackay. Daniel Mackay struggled first hand. And I know a few Cali Thistle players on a personal note, so I can speak first hand. Daniel Mackay struggled to get into that Inverness Cali Thistle team in the Championship at the beginning of last season. Neil McCann came into Cali, and the thing from Cali Thistle's point of view was he started to hit lightning. Bang, he's in at Hibs. Made a blistering start to his life at Hibs under Jack Ross. Dylan Tate, for me, has been a regular player at Rafe Rovers. For me, he should have enough talent, enough mentality, and enough credentials to be pushing into that Hibs team and looking to get a place in the starting lineup. And with the way Hibs plays, the way he plays is very similar to the system that Hibs have in place at this precise moment in time. And I was very shocked to find out that he went back out and loan to Rafe Rovers. Great move for Rafe Rovers all the same, but disappointing window from a Hibs point of view. Sean touched upon it on Tuesday night. You've got Jason Kerr going to Wigan for £600,000, yet they go and sign Nathan Wood on loan from Middlesbrough. No getting wrong, this Nathan Wood could be in England's central defence behind McGuire in a few years' time, but from a Hibs point of view, Nathan Wood is a very unknown quantity outside. Inside, you've also got these things such as Boy Scout and all that kind of stuff that you can maybe do your homework in these type of players, and you've obviously got contacts and devices and information that you can go look at. But for me, you'd rather get a player that's been there, done that, and worn a t-shirt, such as Jason Kerr has done, rather than a 19-year-old that has done well for the international setup for England and done well for Middlesbrough. Jonathan Woodgate's a very high admirer of Nathan Wood, but for me, I'd rather get, if I was a Hibs fan, I'd rather have somebody in that's been there and done it.
Absolutely, and something that's been there and done that. If we look across the city, it's been hitting the back of the papers today, and it's John Souttar. You alluded to him earlier when we were talking about our Scotland chat. Now, Suter has been, he's been plagued with injuries, and that's been the detriment, obviously, and probably one of the only reasons he's not in that Scotland setup right now. How imperative is it for Robbie Nielsen's side that he signs this deal? He goes out of contract in the summer, in the coming summer, and he's still only 24 years old. It's a prime time. It's crucial that Hearts keep a hold of him, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Hearts have had a terrific start to the season. And for me, if they can keep the mould of their team or the retention of their team, they'll do very well. Because the thing with Hearts is the players they got rid of, they weren't exactly first team players. They were players that were on the fringes. And for me, they took in players that they've kept the mould of their team from the championship winning side last season, and a lot was made of the fact that Hearts were winning games of football, but they weren't exactly playing particularly exciting football. But let's face it, they were playing a Heart and Midlothian style of football. And what's a Heart and Midlothian style of football? A Heart and Midlothian style of football is stabilised but not exciting, and they've done that. They've signed some good players, and they've added very well. But Hearts have made a terrific start this season. They're not top of the league for no odd reason, or they're not in the top two for no odd reason. And for me, I'd rather be winning games of football rather than playing a specific style of football every week. And if you're going to win 1-0 but not playing well, rather than lose 2-1 by playing superb football, you take that every day of the week. And for me, Hearts need to maintain what they're good at, and if they do that, they'll challenge.
Even though the transfer window's closed, there's always that bit that, we can still sign a free agent. And that's one of the names that's been kicking about today. It's Barry Mackay. Now, I remember not long ago that somebody was touting that he was going to be a brighter star than Kieran Tierney. But here we get Barry Mackay at 26 years old, and he is that free agent. He was on loan at Fleetwood Town last season. There's been talks that he could be hanging around at that Hearts side. Do you think he'd be a welcome addition to Nielsen's side at Tynecastle? Do you think he's maybe the kind of player that they're after?
Probably. Probably in the extent of they need more width. They've got Josh Ginnelly, but I feel they need somebody on the other side. If they can get Josh Ginnelly and I forgot Barry Mackay, my brain was there. If they can get Ginnelly and Mackay and use that to fruition, then it's going to be a positive. But he played for Swansea, but injury ravaged him. His Rangers tenure was okay, but you've got to remember he was out on loan at Morton and Mayfield Rovers. You'll be forever known for Rangers fans for scoring that winner in Old Firm in the Scottish Cup semi-final, but you've also got to take it into consideration. You're not going to loan at Morton and Mayfield Rovers, with all due respect, if you're spectacular, and that's the thing for me. The thing with the Swansea spell as well is he was out on loan at Fleetwood Town in Week 1, which tells you everything you need to know. Could Hearts kickstart his career? Absolutely. But he needs to have the correct attitude, the correct mentality, and most importantly, it's got to be right for Hearts. He's got to fit into Hearts' system, because Hearts, as I alluded to, have started the season superbly. They've got an Edinburgh derby in 10 days' time. Instead of worrying about Barry Mackay side for Hearts, the most important thing for Hearts' point of view is getting that victory over Hibs, because it doesn't matter where Heart and Midlothian finish. Heart and Midlothian claim to be the third biggest team in Scottish football, but the most important thing is they're going to beat Hibs and beat the bragging rights over Hibs. That's the most important thing if you're an Edinburgh club.
Absolutely, and it is that Edinburgh derby in just 10 days' time. And it kind of takes us on nicely to this next topic that's been doing the rounds. It's still the clarity is not quite there. I don't believe that even if it is implemented, that it'll affect the tie, because it's only 10 days away. And it's these vaccine certificates. Nicola Sturgeon said the other day that if it gets voted through by the Scottish Government, if it's 10,000 fans or more in an outdoor stadium, obviously, then a vaccination certificate will need to be proven. Now, David, we have both been in many press boxes over the last 18 months where we've been at games where there's been no fans whatsoever, and I'm not going to speak for you, but it's been nothing. It's not been like a game of football. It's been like go and watch training matches sometimes. The language that you endure is something else. That's an eye-opener. But the buzz is taken out of it. Now, There was, of course, the Glasgow Derby at the weekend, and you see 50,000 Rangers fans only, obviously, in the stadium, but the atmosphere is electric. You look at last night in Copenhagen, and it was a fantastic atmosphere. Stuart Garvey said last night that's the only thing that he actually enjoyed watching was the Danish fans doing the Mexican wave. So that speaks volumes as to what was actually unfolding on the park. How valid or how much can you see this being able to be implemented? You know, this is not going to be an easy procedure. We're already seeing how much across Scottish football as a whole that is due to players not being vaccinated or having their double vaccination, that they're missing out on games. Not every fan is going to be double vaccinated. There's going to be many reasons as to why that's not, but it's almost that 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We've just got used to getting fans fully back in grounds, full stadiums, getting the atmospheres back, because ultimately football without the fans is nothing. And this is a really tough step if it is implemented, isn't it?
I'd like to see more evidence about where the coronavirus cases are coming from, if I'm being brutally honest. I mean, are they coming from the fans? Are they coming from the takeaways? Are they coming from the nightclubs? Nobody's telling us anything. I'd like to see more evidence. And I think Neil Doncaster's absolutely spot on with regards to he's wanting more information with regards to this. What's the repercussions for the clubs moving forward? And I mean, the clubs that are going to be affected are your Old Firm, Aberdeen, Dundee maybe, Dundee, the 2 Edinburgh clubs. They're going to be the ones that are going to be affected. There is the anti-vaccinators. Completely understand and completely respect that. But there's other side of, if you've got, for example, 15,000 people inside the ground, probably 12,500 of those are going to be double vaccinated by the end of September, right? So, which means there's probably 1 in 100 chance, or 1 in 1,000 chance, beg your pardon, of somebody going to be hospitalised after being at a football ground. And for me, if you start threatening things such as, I know for the Old Firm game, they were speaking about the potential of, was it 20,000 for the Old Firm game, if I'm not mistaken? Yeah, and they were speaking about that. I mean, 20,000 is still positive, but if you looked at that at a whole complexity, it would have just died, because you'd have had person in the seat, person not in the seat. And if you're going to start coming away with either playing games behind closed doors again or playing games with restricted crowds, it's only going to kill that atmosphere. I mean, me and you have been at games where there's been no fans, but me and you have also been at games where there's been fans, but there's been a dire atmosphere at those games where there's been very little atmosphere. And for me, fans make football. If you don't have football with a full crowd, it's nothing. I was at Dundee Hibs a couple weeks ago. Terrific atmosphere. When Paul McGowan knocked in that equaliser, the Derry Rumba erupted. The same at Rangers against Celtic with the 50,000. Ibrox erupted when Rangers took the lead. Fans, football needs fans.
It's the SFA, the Joint Response Group, came and said it's unintended consequences is what their concerns really are surrounding. It's how this comes into place as well. You know, what are the queues going to be like? That's all I think of. You know, we've been there as well. That I've been in queues that you have to, you know, when we were in press boxes and you have to get your temperatures taken. I queued outside. We queued outside Dundee. We queued outside other places as well. I remember, I was up north on a game as well. And it takes a bit of buzz out of the game. You're having to go early. I know fans that when there was still the reduced capacity, and it was the queues, because it's getting that time taken to get inside into the grounds. It's not like going to a normal game of football. I appreciate, obviously, this is a sensitive issue, and it is still a bit of hearsay because nothing really has been clarified yet. But it's putting it into works as well. It's putting it into motions. If you're having to, there you go, if you're saying a ground of 15,000, 12,500 are going to be vaccinated, how many staff are you going to have to employ to check all these certificates, to prove all these passports, whatever it may be, sorry. The workings behind that, it doesn't bode well, does it?
No, absolutely not. And I mean, there's going to be more trouble for the clubs, both at an administrative level and also a employee staff level, because I mean, you're going to be pushing the boat out for volunteers. It's going to involve more money upon the clubs because, I mean, when it's minimum wage and all that kind of stuff, you need to employ people ensure responsibility around this, and it's just going to take too much hassle. I mean, I can maybe understand if it was an end of October procedure with the start of this, but now to end of September is far too premature, and it needs questions, and it needs questions fast, as far as I'm concerned, because I mean, Nicola Sturgeon's pushing the panic button. Don't get me wrong, Nicola Sturgeon's done really well pushing this country through the pandemic compared to Mr. Boris Johnson up at Westminster. But no, I feel Nicola needs to. I feel she's pushed the panic button with this.
It's an interesting one, Dave, that we'll all have our eyes cast upon every single second, you and I in particular, because like I say, we do not want to be going back to having to go to grounds to cover games with no atmosphere, because it's just not the same, is it? Like I say, it just feels like training sessions. But thank you so much for joining me, Dave Smith, and thank you to all our viewers across all the various platforms that we are broadcasting to tonight. It is getting to crazy levels at State of Mind. Do ensure that you are subscribed to the State of Mind channel on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook and all that malarkey. Like I say, we're on Twitch now as well. Don't ask me about that. I don't have a clue what any of that is. I think we're close to, is it accreditation or there's something like that? We're near that. So get following us or whatever you have to do, likes, whatever it is, and get us to that next stage. But thank you all so much for joining me. I've been Amy Canavan. That's been David Smith on the State of Scottish Football.